No one in the front row? Okay, next row, I see someone who's wanting to ask a question. You ready with your timer? Okay.
Honua, how are you going to keep the thermal wastewater from increasing in temperature when HELCO is control of the override to your system, and they're expecting you to dispatch 30 megawatts, not 21.5. 21.5 does not make 200,000 kilowatt hours. It makes under, even if you dispatch that 24 hours a day, that would be under the original power purchase agreement. So I want to know the temperature of the water emerging through the seabed at 36 megawatt operating loads during summer ambient, 26 to 27 degrees Celsius, summer ambient. That would be, you would be running the plant at 36 megawatt loads gross. What temperature is the water emerging through the seabed? And I don't care about whether there's sediment or not. As far as I'm concerned, the life in the sand and the mud counts.
And I forgot I was going to ask people's name. Claudia, I know. And what neighborhood do you live in, Claudia? What neighborhood do you live in?
I use Pepicao for fishing, hiking, and it doesn't matter what neighborhood.
Oh, I was just curious where people are from. But if you don't want to say,
I
that's
live
fine.
on the east side of Hilo Bay, and my property is only 6 feet above sea level.
Got it.
So global warming affects me personally. The bottom structural member of my house is at 13 feet above sea level. Once the ocean rises during a king tide, another 3 feet from what it is
thanks,
now,
Claudia.
it will flood my property,
Claudia.
and I'll be living in a bathtub.
Thank you, Claudia. Is there someone going to take the answer to that question? Anyone from DOH going to either answer this or tell where the question would go to answer, or no? I don't know where everyone is because there's so many people in here. I'm not even seeing where everyone is anymore. No. Dennis, are you here? I've lost track of you. Can you answer this question, or at least direct them for the place to answer the question? So,
Warren Lee, Honua. I think to answer the first question, the plant will not be operating at 36 megawatts gross. It will be operating at 21.5 megawatts net. That is all the data that we've submitted in our applications. 21.5 net, 24.5 gross. So that is what the calculation is on. If the plant, to say it bluntly, is going to be dispatched by HELCO, and it's not going to be dispatched at 36 megawatts.
and if you could stand up and maybe just say your name and your question.
I'm from La Pujoy Community Public Charter School. I'm in the 9th grade, and my name is Jason. My question is to the people wearing the green shirts. Are you being paid to attend this program, or do you actually believe into this?
Thank you, Jacelyn.
Thank you for the question. Yes, I am being paid to attend this meeting. This is part of our duty as far as being responsible as to hear what the community has to say and to reinforce that we will be operating within compliance of the permits when issued. So yes, I am being paid. Yeah, thank you. Some of the people wearing green shirts are not employees, and they're here on their own time.
Okay. So, second line here. Anyone else have a question that they'd like to ask? Oh, we'll come back around. I just want to move around the room, and we'll come back. Yes.
We're still
Oh,
not,
and if you could just say your name, please, so we can
Corey
be
Harden,
cordial.
and we're still not clear how many people are being paid to be here.
Is that your
Okay.
question? If that's your, you can compound your question in your 2 minutes. So that's one question. You want to know how many people are paid to be
I'm
here? Okay.
asking that the student's question be fully
Okay.
answered. She was wondering how many people are paid to be here by Honua.
Okay, can you share your other questions all together in your 2 minutes, and then we'll
Okay,
get to
my
them.
other question is, there was a spill reported November 9 at Honua. What operation was being done at the time? Did Honua have permits? Was it following guidelines? And what is being done to evaluate the effects of the spill?
Okay, so two-part question. One is how many paid Honua employees are here? Second part is the November 9th spill.
Kevin Owen, I'm the plant manager. Honua employees, would you guys please stand? Thank you.
You hold this up.
Was there a spill? Yes, there was an inadvertent spill last week, and it was have to do with the chemical cleaning of the process. The solution was neutralized before it was inadvertently released, and we are under investigation right now at the present time, and we will submit a report to the state.
Excuse me.
Okay, so hold on.
I work at the plant,
We're,
and
sir,
Honua knew exactly what they was doing
Sir.
on this discharge,
sir.
and
Sir.
you folks knew exactly what you folks was doing because that hose, that discharge hose, was camouflaged and thrown over that wall.
How do you know?
So I don't want us to end up in a free for all here too. I want us to stay civil. So I don't want you then throwing questions over here. So
Gallons or 7,000 gallons that you claim that you discharged into the ocean is just a fraction.
He works at Honua. He knows.
right, I don't want this to start yelling back and forth. So he answered. Great. So let's not devolve. Let's stay civil, folks. Okay, so I think we were into the third row here. I see. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go around each row once, and I'm going to circle back around because there are a lot of people and a lot of people here who want to ask questions. And we may not be able to get to all of you before noon, but we're going to try to get to a lot. So there's 2 people in this row who want to. We're going to go one row at a time, and I'll circle back around. So yeah, because I just want to be fair and try to get to everyone in the room. So which of you 2 wants to go?
Well, Dennis Poma was up. He actually stated that this power plant is no different from any other power generating facility in the state. That's one of the key triggers for an EIS, and somehow that's still not done, and it would really answer a whole lot of questions everybody else in here has that we wouldn't have to be in this meeting for if that was done to begin with. And on top of that, to issue a permit and then afterwards say we're going to make it conditional and go look at it, that doesn't really seem very responsible to me. So can you guys please give us some comments on that?
Environmental assessment, or EA, or environmental impact statement is basically to look at a facility that potentially could have a variety of different impacts, not just environmental. It could be socioeconomic, could be traffic, could be a bunch of other things for affecting the community or the surrounding community. Right now, the Department of Health is not looking at an EIS. We're more looking at, from our role, as a regulatory agency, and that's why you have the various permits that are being applied for right now. The EIS question, the EA question, is sort of a broader question to be answered, not just from the Department of Health standpoint, but it also affects other agencies within the state as well as the county as well. So right now we're not contemplating an EIS.
Okay, so I'm Ray. I'm from Papa'aloa, but I serve Honolulu every morning. And my question is, I'm hearing questions about why are we not doing this permitting prior to instead of after? I have a 2-part question. I understand that the spill was inadvertent. I was in the water on Saturday morning. I got out because there was a keiki contest there. They were in the water the whole day. What are y'all gonna do to inform us so we're not soaking our babies in whatever parts per million are in the water? A lot of us are getting sick there. I'm not saying it's you, but we don't need to contribute to what's already there. So my question is, how come we found out kind of through the grapevine, the coconut wireless, and we weren't informed directly that there might be some serious hazard to us and to those babies. Will you answer it?
Thank you. Who's going to answer this question?
Kevin Owen. And as I said, the solution was neutralized. It was citric acid, which is commonly found in orange juice, and soda ash.
Speak. You got to really put your mouth into the mic because the people are hard of hearing, can't hear in this
The content
room.
was citric acid, which is commonly found in orange juice, and soda ash to bring the pH back up to a normal level.
Oh, is there anyone who can speak to that, how people might be able to be informed?
We did notify the state that very same day, so the state knew.
Okay, so we're going to move on to this side here. I think we did these first two rows, and now we're on this one. We have another student from Laupahoehoe. Okay, say your name.
Hi, I am Selah. I am a junior in Laupahoehoe Charter School, and my question is to Honua. Like, are you going to keep tabs on how much trees you replant after you chop down and see if they will, like, regrow and, like, filter the air so there won't be in that much carbon? You could be keeping tabs on it.
So your question is about are the trees that are cut down going to, is there going to be a continual replanting of the trees? Okay, who can speak to that?
Warren Lee Honua, relative to the tree planting, we have...
Speak up a little louder. You got to speak louder.
Relative to tree replanting, yes, there are managed eucalyptus plants, the forests that were grown on the Hamakua coast in the replacement of the sugar that was seized. Our plan is for the eucalyptus that we use for biomass, we will be replanting. We have looked at the feedstock process, which means that when you get into the forest and you have the harvest operation with the equipment that may be using diesel to operate, you look at the fertilizer, we have to make decisions. We're going to use an organic fertilizer or a normal type fertilizer. So when you take all of that carbon into consideration, for example, if we say we used 20 trees for biomass energy production, we may, based on the studies we're looking at, we may have to replant 21 eucalyptus trees. So we have a forester, PhD on staff to manage the forest and the replenishment of the forest. So relative to carbon dioxide, some of the studies that show is that if you have a mature tree, which some of them are now 30 to 40 years old, they should have been processed many, many years ago when they were planted. There is a rate of carbon dioxide sequestration with the new saplings coming up, and my understanding is that that rate is probably higher than the older trees that you have standing. So the idea is how do we harvest the trees before they, trees die, and we want to make sure that we have this cycle going on, and that's part of the Honua story and the plan to operate.
So, sir, can you pass that down? Oh, sorry, I almost stepped on your foot.
Hi, my name is Maurice. Moved here from Chicago about 2.5 years ago. I worked at power plants, nuclear, coal, and oil-fired power plants from 1992 to 2006, and not a single one of them was in compliance with the EPA. Now, anyone could take 10 minutes and look on the EPA's website and look at the fossil fuel power plants in Hawaii, and not one of them has been fully in compliance for the last 3 years. Now, 2 of them have been in non-compliance every quarter for the last 3 years. One of those I looked at had a major violation in 2014. They found the violation because they did an on-site visit inspection. They have not done an on-site inspection at the facility since 2014. So that's the only reason why we can assume that they don't have any major violations. So this is leading up to me asking, what guarantee do we have that this facility is going to be in compliance? And when we don't even have an EPA that is going to come and look, it's purely self-regulation. Now, I got to say, I stand with all you workers wanting jobs, needing jobs, and this idea, this plant is good. It's a good idea. But in practice, it just doesn't work. We should have spent the money on solar or wind. For the same money, I don't know what the price tag on this is because there's been misinformation going around even in the paper, but I heard 210 million. We could have done solar for 60.
You're
but
at 30
even if that
seconds.
was wrong, let's say it's 120, so what? We would have saved money. So my question is, what guarantee do we have about compliance and that you will do everything you say you're going to do?
Thank you for your comment on non-compliance. I think you mentioned Kauai Electric. I'm not sure if you meant what fossil
Speak
fuel.
up. Speak up, Warren.
Is that the combustion turbine? So in Hawaii, not Kauai. I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, let me tell you how this plant is being designed and being constructed. As far as emissions, there is a system called CEMS, meaning the acronym for Continuous Emissions Monitoring, where all the gases going out the stack is being monitored on a continuous basis and recorded. So any violations or exceedances are determined, if they're recorded, are reported to the Department of Health. So it's a self-reporting system, not necessarily somebody coming out and inspecting every 2 years. So I'm not sure what instance that you're referring to. Of course, I don't know. Haven't been in the business for a number of years. But there is in our systems, there's a scrubber, there's a electric precipitator, which takes the particles out that are not burned, will collect it, and that'll be properly disposed of. So it's a highly, very, what do you call it, a quote-unquote clean plant. And again, back to your original question, non-compliance, yes, we have continuous emissions monitoring systems.
Okay, so we're going to do some of the written questions now. Joanna's she's grouped them sometimes. Do you have another written question? No, I'm sorry, we're going to go to the written questions, ma'am. So she's going to come, like if we got 3 that were very similar, we're going to combine them into one.
Actually 4. So what are the 4 chemicals used to protect the pipes during the water processing? What are the 4 chemicals used to protect the pipes during the water processing? We know the manufacturer's warnings about the dangers of these chemicals individually. What studies have you done to look at the combinations and interactions of these chemicals?
And I'd like to hear from the workers on the site about this cover-up of the chemical spill.
Can you please?
Our environment is more important than police tests.
Can you please try wait? Thank you. I want to make sure
I want to hear about the chemical. Take the microphone, please, and tell the people about our
Kuhan, let's keep it civil. What I'm concerned right now about is what's happening at the doorway. I don't want anyone who's in this meeting to get injured. Can everybody who's here step in and keep going in? I don't want to have people get tripped over or injured. If there is someone who needs to sit down, I think there are still some seats. Can you raise your hand if you have a seat next to you? If somebody needs to sit down, please come take one of these seats. I want to make sure everyone is safe in this room. Thank you. Okay, so now, please, I don't want to degenerate into a yelling match. Please, I really want you to not do what you're doing right now. And I'll tell you why. I want to keep orderly meeting. And if we start doing this and I start letting everyone do this, The people who have questions that they want answered are not going to be able to have them to be answered. So I'd like everyone to just take a deep breath. I really
here to hear both sides and learn on this thing. But this constant interruptions makes it very difficult for those that came here with an open mind to make a decision.
So yeah, thank you. So everyone, if you can try wait, okay? So we are still in the public information meeting. This is a Q&A meeting. I see that there's new people arriving. This is not the public hearing yet. The public hearing will be at 1 o'clock. But we really have to keep the door and the walkways open so we stay safe. I know there's still some seats over on this side, so if you need to see it, please move over this way. Okay, so we have a question on the floor about the chemicals. Please respond.
Okay, so as I had on the slide, there's 4 additives products that are used as part of the boiler makeup water process. Each of those products are considered non-hazardous. They don't contain Clean Water Act listed chemicals above the de minimis amounts that are defined by both OSHA and EPA. The compounds that are in there, although the MSDSs or the safety data sheets, the manufacturers put wording on there. When they talk about individual compounds, something like sulfuric acid, if sulfuric acid was to be placed in the environment as a pure 100% ingredient, it would say that it would harm the environment or kill fish and such. But for example, all of those are less than actually 0.1%, and equivalent to the 0.00002% of what's actually going into the UICs. Within the boiler tubes itself, the chemicals are designed to remove scale, to prevent corrosion. It's really to protect the pipes, to keep the water at its purity that it needs to be. And then a portion of that is only a portion of that is actually injected or blown down from the boiler system at a very low quantity before it goes in. It is also filtered. So for some of those impurities that are removed, it is then filtered so that the solids are removed so it doesn't enter into the waste stream. And then the other compounds are there to react and form things like carbon dioxide or nitrogen. Others are actually vented out when some of the chemical products are used to eliminate air and oxygen and get vented out. It doesn't actually go into the water. So they're all, and Nalco was involved with the process. We have selected the latest and greatest state-of-the-art chemicals that they produce or products that they produce in order for the water to be at the purity that we need for the boiler. Okay, so out of the 4 products that are being used in the boiler tubes, the first one is an oxygen scavenger. It's injected into the tubes to remove excess oxygen. And it's a product that's at 5 to 10% based on the MSDS, and it's called carbohydrazide. Okay, so it's already at a very low concentration. The rest of the product is essentially water, and that's what in the oxygen, the excess actually gets vented through the air. So it's reacting to have that excess oxygen be emitted from the system. The only other one of the 4 additives that actually have an ingredient listed on there above the de minimis is the neutralizing to neutralize carbonic acid, and that's a product or a chemical known as morpholine, and that's at a 40 to 70%. Morpholine, MORPHOLINE. And none of these are listed as hazardous substances on the Clean Water Act, so they're not regulated substances that go into the discharge by the Clean Water Act.
Okay, now we're going to go to some other questions. I'm sorry. I don't want to start. I don't want to get into. I don't want to. Let's show the world how we do it in Hawaii. Okay. Let's be aloha here. let's be aloha. Let's not do what's happening in the national arena, which is people yelling and screaming. There are people here because they don't know how they feel yet. There's people here who work for Honua. There's people here who are protesting. There are students here who are trying to learn and understand what's going on in their community. So we have, I'll tell you where we are in our time. It's at 11:25. So we have 35 more minutes together to do Q&A, and then we're going to have to end. So what I would like to do is I would like to get to more of your questions, and then in the afternoon, all the people who are here who want to give testimony can give testimony.
I'll give you the product names because the 4 products don't contain all of them have listed hazardous substances in them. Okay, so the first product that's in the boiler water makeup is called Eliminox. It's a Nalco product. The second product is called Nalco Eliminox, ELIMIN-OX. And that's used as an oxygen scavenger. The second product is called Nalco 352. And that's used to neutralize carbonic acids within it, break down. The third product is Nalco BC2036, a scale and corrosion inhibitor. Nalco, NALCO, and then the B is in boy, C is in cat, 2036 is the product name. And the fourth one for the boiler is Next Guard, NEXT Guard 22300, and that's a polymer protect against deposition. And then for the non-contact cooling water, there's one product which is used as a dispersant for minerals, and that is called 3D Trasar, TRASAR.
Aloha, Kako. I'm sorry, I just wanted to step in for a little bit. Kalamai for cutting in. My name is Lito Archangel or Arcangel, depending on how much Filipino you get, how you pronounce them. I'm the president of Pepe'ekeo Community Association. Therefore, I have no option to choose sides. My kuleana, along with my VP, Jarek, is to listen to the people from both sides. We get people, friends, family, relatives, classmates working for Honua. We get friends, family, classmates, relatives who are against Honua. My kuleana is for listen. My kuleana is for also to be able to care for each and every one of you, whether you for or against. That is our laveno, how we was taught as youth. For those of you who are living here and you feel overwhelmed with this emotion to wanna, how we say, ku'e, yeah? We gotta remember aloha, like Auntie said, aloha. Do we all understand the definition of aloha? It started off as an acronym. E, akahai, to be kind. Lokahi, unity, harmony. Ha'aha'a, to be humble, to be modest. Olu, to be pleasant, to be comfortable. And ahonui, to be patient. And right now, I'm seeing a lot of that stuff that people are yelling out. Hey, this is wrong, that is wrong. Like Auntie said, we will have a time and a place for do all this. But if we don't practice this aloha, then how different we are than every other state in the United States of America, let alone the world. So all I ask, my question to everybody here, including myself, can we please practice aloha and love one another regardless? Mahalo. You get them.
Thank you. This next question will be for Norris, and I see him in the back. If you could start coming up. What process is in place to cool the water before injection? If the water is too hot when it is injected, how will people know? What is the monitoring system? What is the estimated temperature and pollutant levels of the discharge water from the plant, and the estimated impact to the ocean's temperature and to sea life and coral? Approximately how many UIC wells are permitted and in operation on the Big Island in the state of Hawaii?
I didn't catch all the questions. Let me go from the last one.
He's gonna try to read them.
Forward.
And speak up.
Okay, approximately how many UIC wells are permitted and operation on Big Island, and then in the state of Hawaii? The Big Island has the largest percentage of injection wells. I believe there are about 6,000 some odd injection wells on the Big Island. Primarily, they're drainage injection wells for stormwater. So those can be found along roadways. I think there's about a little over 1,000 of those 6,000 that are what we call sewage injection wells, and just a handful of industrial injection wells. Okay. Next question is, what process is in place to cool the water before injection? What's proposed to us is no cooling, no specific process to cool the water down. Okay, you want me to read that? There's no cooling process that is proposed for this cooling water. There's this smaller amount that I think Dennis mentioned that made up the 0.2%. There's some cooling through what they call a discharge sump. But the primary wastewater that's being discharged, the cooling water, the non-contact cooling water, is just pulled up, processed through their system, and back down into the injection wells. So maybe Dennis can explain that a little better. Let me get to another question though. What is the estimated temperature and polluted levels of the discharge water from the plant? And I can't read this. And the estimated impact to the ocean's temperature and sea life and coral. Okay, they did a thermal effects report, and that kind of touches upon what the groundwater model predicts for that activity. Bill? Yep.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bill Cutler with Integral Consulting. I'm a geologist, mostly groundwater. Did my graduate work at UH, and I've been looking at some simple models to understand the injection of the heated water. And we have a model that we've built to try to understand how it will be affected in the aquifer system. So, and just in general, if you're not familiar, an aquifer is the rock that has pores in it, pore space where the water can move through. There's also fractures and lava tubes and small holes and the like. And the warm water will go into the aquifer, and based on our modeling, which has conservative assumptions that it's going to move towards the ocean and not disperse very much, so that's more the conservative. On average, it would take about, we believe, about 50 days, about 2 months, to reach the bottom of the ocean, where it will then discharge and mix with the seawater. And we've done some calculations on what the temperature of the water would be at the base of the ocean, and within the bottom couple feet of the ocean, our model tells us that the highest increase in temperature will be, and this is in Celsius, would be like less than 0.2, so 1/5 of a degree in Celsius. So in Fahrenheit, it'd be like 0.3 degrees. And that's the difference between without putting in the injection of the hotter water versus not running the UIC. And there's a lot of detail behind this. I just wanted to give a high-level overview, but I'll be around all day. So if you guys want to go into any details on it, I'd be glad to discuss with you.
we're going to move on to other questions because I've still got half the room to get through here. So if you would write it down, that would be great. So talk story with him afterwards, please, so we can get to other people in the room, please. Thank you.
I'm Sherry Mees from Papiakeo. I'm Malka of Sugar Mill Road, just miles from where the plant is. The UIC has been approved for construction. DLNR has not finished their baseline aquatic study. And EPA and EIS is not required underneath state and local regulations. What is that? I lived in California. I lived in Washington State, not far from the Hanford site. There are a lot of violations. Who will be monitoring, and what consistency and what frequency? Who will be monitoring this if the EPA is not done, if the EIS is not done, if none of these things are looked at? What is you don't have enough to go on. Are we going to look at it after the degradation? Who's going to monitor it?
Keith Kawilka, Department of Health. Regarding the EIS, I didn't explain it earlier. The EIS from the Department of Health standpoint, we're typically one of the reviewers of the EIS. We don't become what we call the approving agency for the EIS. That's determined by not just the department, the state, but it's also a county function as well. As far as the monitoring of it, the facility, like Honua says, they have a continuous monitoring system for the various emissions. To our permitting process, we have to make sure that those conditions are met. We do make monitoring and inspections of the facilities, depending on air, water, solid waste.
There's all kinds of different monitoring requirements. There's water quality, periodic water quality monitoring that they got to do every quarterly. It might be every 6 months or yearly. There's periodic inspections that they need to do. I believe we're going to be requiring every week that you do some kind of recorded inspection of the injection wells. And that's just to make sure that the wells are operating okay, they're not overflowing or whatnot. There's annual performance evaluations that need to be done. Recording of flows, recording of temperatures. We're probably going to put in temperature limits and flow limits into the UIC permit. And then
Can we please let's not calling it out.
Probably continuous monitoring. I haven't set the permit conditions. I don't know what the limitations are. Okay, it's possible, yes, but I need to work out and see how the system is set up, what can be done, and do it. Anyway, if I can't do it one way, I can probably do it another way. Okay. So I've been a regulator for coming close to 30 years. I think I got some of the angles and tricks to properly monitor it. But I do want to kind of touch upon what another speaker had once mentioned, and just to confirm, yes, the facility will be doing self-monitoring, okay, and reporting whatever they monitor to us. So we're going to have place a lot of faith on the laboratories that are doing the work, the operational staff that are recording the flows and temperatures and whatnot. That's the nature of environmental permitting, that it is correct. They need to do self-monitoring, and it's our job to review the information and see if it makes sense. If it makes sense, when we go out to an inspection or something, we go and we verify that that's what their monitoring is in accordance to what the permit requires. So there's many things in the permit. It's hard for me to, if we can talk about it after this, I can get into more specifics about what particular concern you might have. But that's what I wanted.
Thank you. Here. So we're just doing one person per row because we can't get to all the questions today. It's just impossible. There's too many people here. So we've got. Are you okay to? Hold on. I'm gonna have to come to the other side.
And I live in the Pepekeo Shoreline Subdivision. I'm probably a block from Honua, and I'm curious as to why an environmental impact statement has never been done. There seems to be so many unanswered questions and concerns. I just thought an environmental impact statement was the way to go to find out all these answers. I think it would help us as a community to come together. Right now, we're going by you guys self-monitoring yourselves. I'm not sure I feel that's going to work. So anyway, I'm just curious, why isn't an environmental impact statement being done? And I don't know if it's the Department of Health I direct that to, but why not?
The environmental assessment and environmental impact statement falls under the Hawaii Environmental Protection Act. It is a very commonly misinterpreted and misunderstood rule or law that we have in Hawaii. But when this project started, I put up on the slide earlier that we've, for 10 years, more than 10 years, and back in 2009, through the Office of Environmental Quality Control, which is what facilitates the process for EAs and EISs, a technical review board was put together. DOH participated, agencies participated, in which the project itself went under that review process to see if there was a trigger that required an environmental assessment. And based on, the project hasn't changed since then. The only thing that has changed from when that was done was the UIC wells. The UIC wells are not a trigger for doing an environmental assessment or environmental impact. There's 9 triggers within the statute that generally are for things of using state public monies, state lands, federal lands, etc., which the project's not. So it was vetted. There's a letter from the Department of Health stipulating that no EA was required, provided the project stays in the same nature that it is today, which it is.
Aloha, my name is Maya Parrish, and my question is for the uncle in the orange hat sitting in the front row right over here. Earlier, he spoke up and stated that the recent spill on the 9th at Honua was not inadvertent or accidental. He also stated that the claim from Honua about the amount of the spill was a fraction of the actual amount that was spilled. So I'd love to hear more about how he knows this and more details about that assertion. Thank you.
My name is Dave. We came about this discharge. We was having lunch 10 feet from that running stream, which was pretty nasty. And we felt responsible. It was our responsibility to our kids, our grandkids, and our resources. Yes, I'm grateful to have a job. Thank you for keeping me employed. But this is totally uncalled for.
I'm Gilbert Dimota, born and raised Pepekeo. And the one was complaining about Kyuka, how long you live there. If you was there during the sugar plantation, the ocean was really not going that way. And still not going that way. It's going Hamakua does it go to Kuka way? And if you believe it, go back home.
Okay, we're on row 7 here for questions. I see 2 here. I'm going to go. She had her hand up first, so I'm just going to go over here.
Hi, good morning. Allison English, science educator, very concerned resident of the Hamakua coastline. My question is for Honua. You guys mentioned 4 chemicals, and then when pressed, you went on to mention 7 of them. Page 5 of your permit actually lists 16 chemicals, and I'd like to read them off to you because they have things like OSHA acute warning, hazardous warning from your manufacturers, Nowco. May I read the list? Sulfamic acid is an acid reagent. It's an OSHA hazardous substance. EPA immediate acute health hazard, harmful to aquatic life with long-lasting effects. Out of the 16 chemicals named, 11 of them have that same warning. Why are you saying 4 and then you named 7 and you're not making this public information? Shall I go on? The next one is Nowco, NexGuard 2230. Prevent material from entering sewers or waterways. This is from the manufacturer's warning. Third, Nowco Permatreat. Do not contaminate surface water. Manufacturer's warning. Bromocerol green, methyl red indicator powder, OSHA hazardous substance, EPA immediate acute health hazard from your manufacturer's warning. Okay. Phenolphthalein indicator powder, OSHA hazardous substance, EPA immediate acute health hazard, delayed chronic health hazard. It's the same over and over again. You guys mentioned 4, then when pressed mentioned 7. There are 16 on page 5 of your permit. Why is this information being held from the public?
Thank you. I understand your confusion, and we, well, you let me go through. So if you recall, I had the slide up there. We talked about 4 additives that are for the boiler water. That go into the boiler water tubes for maintaining quality in the tubes. Those are the 4 products that I mentioned earlier with those names. The 5th product is the one that is used for the dispersing of the minerals for the non-contact cooling. Okay, and now each of those 5 don't contain Clean Water Act listed chemicals that are listed on the MSDSs that are above the de minimis levels. The other chemicals that you were describing are in the list. Originally it was in the application, and those are the ones that are used in the laboratory. And as you recall, we said we're looking at alternatives to not discharge those into the UIC. And so those chemicals will not, it's really going to be limited to the 5 at this point that we have for water purification and for the non-contact cooling. The other chemicals will not go into the UICs. Yeah, just dispose of them off-site at a disposal facility. Yeah, because we're evaluating different options right now. Yes.
Hey, how's it? So, the chemicals you talking about, you know, they're not going to be put in the ocean, is what you're saying. But, you know, if you're going to have them still here on the Aina, so what? You know, it's one island. You know. Where are you going to take it to? Oahu? Still Hawaii. So what? You know, like, I just don't understand how that's going to help much. But the other thing that I wanted to ask is about the dioxins in the smoke, which permeate, you know, and build up in our communities, around our homes, around everything, and give everyone cancer. So do we need more cancer? So anyway, that's my question, to please explain about the dioxins, because I know those are going to be coming out too, and I want to know. I know you got scrubbers, but I know it's not going to eliminate all of it.
I'll let Kevin, the plant manager. I'm not the air person. I'm the water and land person. So.
All right. First of all, dioxins, they occur in just about everything, right? I mean, anything that decays and stuff like that. We will be testing for dioxins. We'll be during the commissioning phase where we do start up, and to make sure that they are below the limits.
Aloha everyone, my name is Phaeton Keeney.
Keep
I
the mic.
see a lot of concern here in the room. I'm curious about the underground injection well line, the UIC line that runs along the Hamakua coast, pretty much right along the coastline, except at the sites of these old mills, basically. And you see the line veer from the coastline inland around where the mill sites were and back out to the ocean. And I'm wondering, basically, it looks like those lines were drawn to kind of say that that water was no longer acceptable for drinking water, and that it kind of writes that area's water off and says that this area is to be industrial. And I'm just wondering, basically, so that line does acknowledge that there is some mixing with the drinking water in that area. And what is that? And it goes about far back along the coastline. You know, it goes up to basically the road, the highway. And I'm wondering, what criteria was used to establish how far back, what level of mixing, what sort of things are happening down there in terms of the science of the chemicals being injected into the groundwater there, and how far back it goes, like the criteria.
The UIC line and that our protection strategy depends on the hydrologic cycle, where the water inland is at a higher level, therefore creating a hydraulic gradient and pushes the water out towards the ocean. So there's this movement of water from this pressure, slowly pushing the water out to the ocean. Hamakua Coast has a lot of water. And I looked at some of the numbers of the characteristics of the aquifers there, and there's abundant water. So there will be mixing of the injection water, but after it gets mixed into the aquifer's edge, it'll likely tend to go out to the ocean. Okay, the line was drawn probably based not so much on just water quality for that area, but it was probably acknowledging the old mill and that activity there. There were some other sewage disposal pits, Makai of the town area. That line is not indicative of water quality. It's more of what kind of contaminating activities existed prior, and how to delineate an area where we are going to protect. So the DOH is going to be protecting lands Mauka of that UIC line.
So I really, first of all, I want to mahalo all of you for coming with a lot of questions, with your signs, with your students, with community members, with employees, to participate in this discussion.